Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We've got a great panel to discuss something that I'm actually like kind of into. I feel like maybe all of us, when they announced there was a story, a fifth Toy Story movie coming out, we were probably rolling our eyes. Why do we need even more? Don't beat this franchise to death. But I kind of love the fact that the newest character is an iPad because I feel like it's been as young millennials and old millennials. I'm an old millennial. I know I said I was gonna say young Gen Z. We have seen what like younger kids have kind of had to grow up with socially, with bitch just been given iPads at like 5, 6, 7, even younger. So I'd love to hear your guys' takes on this for Toy Story 5.
Perfect.
It's
Honestly.
relevant. I think that's
It
the thing
is.
for parents. This could hit parents really hard if they show kind of what can happen or whatever.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense because we talk about it all the time. Like kids don't really play with toys anymore, and so to make another Toy Story that doesn't address like the elephant of the room of like the iPad would be pretty tone deaf.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's an iPad and not video games. Because video games, today's kids don't necessarily have it the same way yesterday's kids have it, where it was like video game was actually a huge co-op experience when they really first started getting popular. Single player was a thing, sure, but co-op was just as big, and you were more likely to find just as many co-op aspects as you were. And so getting together and everything like that was a major deal. LAN parties and all that stuff. Now it's an online thing, but some degree there's still a social element, whereas an iPad or a Fire tablet, which is what like Amazon will give it's literally a solo practice.
This says LilyPad, and it says the tablet has different perceptions of what's best for Bonnie. Is this going to be like what are those like educational iPads that they give to kids that are supposed to like teach them stuff? Is it going to be specifically that form of toy?
It might be. It looks like that's kind of what they're doing. Because she is still. I don't know how much they're going to age her up, but she was like a little baby when we last saw her.
Yeah,
That's
I hope
interesting.
they do like kindergarten age, because that's the age where like you would feel like the education is handed off to the device. Like,
it should be no higher than like a second grader. Yeah, that would be the best way to go about it. This isn't a inside out situation. This is a completely different,
right?
And they should really take shots at parents.
Yeah, this needs to be for parents. Yeah.
But like also like take shots. Don't just take shots at Amazon and Apple and be like, oh no, like, because there are a lot of parents out there who are trying to not have this be the case, where there are parents out there who forget pads. They're not even trying to get their kids cell phones because it leads them down a different path. So take shots at the ones who are giving their kids an iPad and just letting them sit there, and then kind of celebrate the ones who aren't. I think that would be a nice, smart way to go about it. So there's a level of validation there too.
I think this would be awesome as well if they're exploring kind of just the this kind of growing sentiment of people recognizing like the vilification of playtime or downtime with constantly having to learn or self-improve. And so you get into this almost like a cycle of self-help or just consuming ways to optimize your life versus like as a kid, like there is an importance of like just playing with meaningless toys and letting your imagination run wild versus like, oh, this is constructive time for you to learn on the LilyPad, or obviously like what you guys are talking about, just consuming content on the LilyPad.
Yeah. And I have to say, so like when I was early 20s, I worked at an Applebee's, and I feel like that was the era where I started to see like a mom and a kid come in, or a family come in, and like the little ones would just get like an iPad propped up in front of them. And like, I've seen crayons and coloring, kind of like all those things that restaurants used to have. That's kind of been going away because everyone's bringing an iPad. And I just remember like in the 80s, like when I was 3, like my mom like didn't have a cell phone because it didn't exist yet. And, you know, obviously iPads didn't exist, and we would like color and talk if she took me out to like lunch or something. But now it's and I'm not a parent, so I'm not going to critique anyone that's doing anything. But I just feel like it's just like, let's shut them up and not let them like let's not engage while we're having dinner. And it's so strange.
Yeah, that hurts me like deeply, like to see that now, especially now that I'm in that situation of like, you know, yeah, you can put something on or you can hand them something and that'll fix whatever's going on and be a distraction, but that's all they're doing. They're not interacting with you. They're not interacting with the world. There's no emotional thing going on. There's no expression of like Andy just said, of like just playing and imagining something, like throwing the food off the table because you're imagining you're doing something that, you know, I just, that's what I want. It's like John said, I want this movie to hit me as a parent and be like, I want to feel watching this. Like, not like in a good way at all times. I want to like feel that, because I think that's who will love this movie the most.
Well, I do think, and I hope they don't do this. I hope they don't do, oh, well, it's actually okay to have the iPad. You could share it too. Ooh. Because that would kind of suck if they went down that route. And I will say that because everybody's going to be like, oh, well, you know, the oldest generations, they had the radio and that put them and they turned out fine. And then the next generation, they had the TV and they turned out fine. And then the video game generation had video games and they turned out fine. This is different than those. Like the iPad is legitimately different than those 3 situations, those 3 generations. It's completely different. So people who try to make that seem like that's a thing, it's actually false. And there's actual data to suggest that it's a completely different situation. But the movie might try to like be like, oh, well, we can walk the line. And I hope they don't.
Right. I hope they step on people's toes with how abrasive they are about and it's an allegory for like the AI thing almost, because this is alive, right? It's the toys are all alive. This toy is AI. Like that's the way I would look at it, is it's an AI device, and that's real. That's no longer fantasy in our world. Like that's teaching your kid.
An AI, and I wonder if they will I wonder if they will write AI into this. Like maybe it wasn't, or maybe it was lower, but because AI has expanded so rapidly, almost pop culture wise, now it's like, no, let's write it in. But again, just different. I can't, you know why it's different? Because before with the radio, you had a couple of stations, and with the TV, even at the highest, when you had 1,000 channels. And video games where it's like, well, you can play anything. You can do all 3 of those things and more on an iPad.
Yeah, I remember talking to a young mom friend from a few years ago, and she was struggling with like when to allow like iPad time and when not, because she said that she herself was raised with like not a lot of technology, and she always felt behind and still is very behind, like all of us. And she doesn't want that to like happen with her daughter. So it's kind of just like finding the balance of like when to be able to have her have those skills and stuff. But it is very complicated. And just to end this, I got to recommend, if anyone hasn't seen it, it was Bo Burnham's comedy special he put out during the pandemic. He did a whole number. You can even just watch this one on YouTube, Welcome to the Internet. And it is totally about the you know, young Gen Zs out there that like this is how they were raised and stuff. And it's fascinating. So but yes, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time.